which means today we may probably have the secret to life.
Yes,
I'm not sure if that.
That question we always have, like, what is the purpose of life?
Yeah.
That's a deep
You know what I'm
question.
saying?
Yeah. Well, we've been having a really interesting conversation. I hope it's been interesting.
Move your,
absolutely.
if you can move
We
your.
don't start it yet, which is sort of like interesting conversation about.
Yeah, that's it.
his own
I mean,
background there. So he's. You don't mind me saying this.
Oh, no, go
So
for
I'm
it.
going to quickly sort of get Lungani up to speed. He's
Oh, no, that's fine.
He's
Yeah.
Manchester. His father's Sierra Leone. His mother's. Your mum. So she's white British.
Yeah, white
Is she
British,
actually from
full.
Manchester then?
Yeah, born and bred Manchester.
Born and bred there. Yeah.
My grandma Manchester, like all of it, like roots, everything.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So you knew
Mancunian.
you knew her family more
Oh yeah.
than
like,
your dad's family. Then.
Yeah, like I never met my granddad on my dad's side, grandma on my mum's side.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
nothing. Literally, like I had like distance figure in my father, but
Yeah.
like he was not there predominantly.
Yeah, so we've done quite a bit of talking there about growing up as sort of like mixed race, not really knowing his his black side as such there, and
Yeah.
how he's had to sort of like.
Welcome to the club.
Well, basically,
it's to be-
this trying to find out who you are is for everybody in the world.
Yeah.
But trying to
Discovering
find
yourself.
yourself, as a person of colour
Oh, yeah.
in a majority white society.
Yeah.
Everyone has a different sort of pathway with that.
Yeah.
And different sorts of pressures and opportunities. You name what it will be.
Yeah.
And you've just been outlining to myself there's some of the
Yeah.
things which you've had to explore, and the way in which, for instance, contemporaries at sixth form at Loretto, you went to Loretto, which is in Manchester. Loretto is like top notch.
Is it like is it like the Eton of Manchester?
It's basically Manchester got because I worked in the sixth form college, so I was a vice principal of sixth form college. Loretto was where we were aiming for, so that they select the
Creme
you have to
de
get
la
the
creme.
best grades in Manchester at 16 to get into Loretto. Loretto and Xavier. I think the Xavier would they'd be saying it's us, but I think it's Loretto.
Loretto's a rivalry. There's a bit of a rivalry.
Yeah, I think there is a bit of a rivalry, isn't it? And one's in Hume, one's in
Moss
Side there. But you get from all over the Greater Manchester, don't you?
You would have people like, I was fortunate, like I only needed to travel like 30 minutes by a bus, but you would have people getting like 2-hour train journeys to come into school like every day and back. Like it's a very competitive school and a very good school.
Yeah, and because Catherine, who I see, she lives on the road where Loretto is. So I see Loretto kids. There are lots of Asian kids, lots of black kids there. It's a very mixed place, isn't it?
It's the most like ethnically diverse place, I'd say, like in Manchester, education system wise. Like I'd say it genuinely is even split between pretty much most ethnic. Like
it's quite an exciting place. And imagine if you're a parent in Manchester, you're very pleased if your child gets into Loretto.
Yeah. My mum was very happy.
Your mother was buzzing.
She was. I can't lie, she was.
My boy.
So we can sort of like be a bit more. I'm Donald, this is Lungani. I've given him an outline of what we're doing basically, and that's how we just got talking really. And what we tend to do is just keep talking like this, and then Lungani sort of gets started with the recording.
Well, he already
He's doing it.
I was recording.
We just go with the flow, basically.
To be
We
honest,
just go with the flow.
when you guys, I had already pressed record. I mean, why waste recording time when you can start?
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. So Trims and Talk come in like Donald they say this. I think I'll say it's literally just conversation, and it is about. We are more interested in your process, in your journey.
Yeah.
I mean, we explore our journey through this because, I mean, like as you'll know, I mean they say men don't talk as much as they should. You know what I'm saying? And based on our visits to the barbershop, we go to the same barbershop.
Okay,
You know what I'm saying?
Into one of them. We work one day, next day I go to the barbershop and who's there?
He's following you around.
He's following me around. You know what I'm saying? It is. Because like this, the weird thing, like last Friday I'm at the barbershop and I'm like, Because I'm thinking, nah, I wonder if Donald, because last time I saw Donald, his hair was kind of looking a little bit questionable. He was questionable.
You were very polite and not saying anything.
But the barbershop was needed.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? The barbershop is needed. Because there's something about the barbershop that basically, it's like you go to the barbershop, whatever way you look, and you come out looking slightly smoother than you do. My boys do that whole thing. I don't know why. I don't know if you've noticed this generation now. The top of the hair, and then they'll shave
he's
just
going
around.
that way, isn't it?
You know what I'm saying? I don't, it's like, because apparently it helps not the hair not to recede.
Oh, is that what they say?
Yeah, because it's like, because remember, from the time when I had Ken rolls, if you start from here,
you're pulling it back.
You're
so
pulling
much,
it back.
like,
You know what I'm saying? So now this generation suddenly decided, you know what?
Yeah,
let's
like a
not
little
even
front
bother.
taper.
Let's just let's shave it all around.
Do you have a barber in Sheffield?
I don't have a barber in Sheffield. I go back to Manchester.
You go back to why do you go back to Manchester then for your barber?
First of all, it's like there's not as large of a black community in Sheffield, so that's why I was like, and also I didn't really want to trek further out to find a barber, and also he's been my barber for time. Like I don't know, it's really
Is that important?
Yeah, like it is important. It's like it's just a sense of like comfort, you know what I mean? And also I can't lie, it's the most trust. Like if I get a paw trim, I'm done. I'm getting calm by my boys. I'm getting everything. So it's like I don't know. It's a sense of comfort. I definitely say.
You want to do a shout out to your barber?
Okay.
No, because that's the thing. It's like because
you let the man stop. The man's doing a shout out to his barber.
No. Go on. No, yeah, man.
Shout out Jerome Davis, bro. Like he's on Insta. I don't know his app, but Cold Barber. He does me nice.
Jerome Davis.
Yeah.
In Manchester. Which part of Manchester is he?
He goes all over because he does like different house bookings and stuff. But like he's south. Yeah, he's in.
He's
south
one of those cool, those clever ones.
Yeah, he's nice.
We'll come to you. You don't have to come to us.
No, he does work in a shop. He does work in a shop as well. I don't actually remember the name of the shop but he works in a shop too.
Yeah, because one of the things which we think, you know, about the barbers is that the barber's where you go and you have your barber for life.
Oh yeah.
And you share things with your barber.
Yeah.
You have conversations.
You're like
in
a
that
priest.
barbershop. Yeah, you do. They ask you about your relationships, how things are going, and so you can, in life you might have 3, 4, 5 big relationships, but you have that one barber.
Yeah. No, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, in my case, my barbers are family. But the weird thing about my boys, I used to take him to Andrew and Kevin again because we're family, but. Eventually, they found their own.
Yeah.
Now they have their own barbers. They don't have the
Is
same
that when
thing.
they sort of like were saying to you, I'm like grown now, Dad, I can choose my own barbers?
I don't think it was that. I don't think it was as deep as that. I think it was, one is the journey there.
Yeah.
And also is what you were saying about because remember those guys, they're a different age group. Because really, Andrew and Kevin, the Fades, are more, I think, it's like that's for grown people, like grown people.
Big men.
That's much, big man.
Big people.
Big people, and they resonate with that generation. So it's like to find a barber who you resonate with is I think is it's its own rite of passage.
How did you? Because you were saying to me before, about. The importance of hair, and your mom as well. Your mom there as a white woman. She wasn't too familiar, was she?
Yeah. So obviously, my father, he wasn't like the most present at all times. So my mum was left with a lot of challenges of raising a black kid, and she had no idea. So it's like. There's times I wanted cornrows. That woman got fleeced by a loctician. Like we're talking like 200 quid cornrows. Like looking back now I'm like, obviously I didn't know at the time when I was young. I was like 7, 8. So me, I'm just like, yo, mum, gotta get locks, gotta get cornrows. But like, and she just did whatever. But she got scammed by that. But it's like my hair, like growing up, like she did all sorts of stuff. Like she texturized it, like relaxed it, plenty of stuff where like personally. I know growing up now, like with my kids, not happening. Like, like I'm putting like if they want hair protected styles, cool, I'll do that. But like, we're not putting chemicals in my hair. But like, so for me, it was more like once I got to like secondary school, a bit more like older I went out of my way to like research my hair, research what's needed, type of hair, 4C, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, like I don't blame my mum. She was clueless, and you'd have no idea because our hair's so different. Afro's hair is so different to Caucasian hair.
Are you the eldest or you're the only child?
I'm technically like the youngest in my family, but like my mum had my sister, but it was with like a different father. So she's like a white ginger girl, and then like me, so it's very different. So like she just went in the same mentality of raising a white girl with me, and like. So she made some mistakes, but I can't blame her for it, you know?
No, but that's the thing. I think for me, I mean, to be honest, I think humans are humans.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? I think sometimes we spend time splitting hairs, literally, trying to justify our own perception about the other. Yeah. Because the same way that we are othered, we end up othering others. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
We've been doing a bit of that talk about the othering of us for yourself there in terms of, we were talking about you getting to Loretta, so clearly you've been quite an academic person for quite a while. You've got a wide variety of interests, etc., which don't always fit, everyone used to think, a cliche version of young black lad, be it from the white majority or it's from other communities. We often get people pigeonholed, don't we?
Yeah, they try and put you into a box. It's like me, like, growing up, my mum was like a teacher, so she would work the same hours when like I'm needing to be picked up from school. So she would always make sure I'm doing clubs. So like when growing up, I did like contemporary dance, ballet dance, street dance, but I did tons of different dance forms. But I did theatre as well. That isn't like exactly like what people would say, something that's black, So like I had like a lot of different spaces that I was in where they weren't expected from me. It's like even now, like we were talking about earlier, it's like I enjoy playing chess, That isn't directly seen as being something that like, why are you playing chess? Like, why are you playing chess, So like, I wouldn't say it's like, we have this constant like stigma where it's like, this is what like a black person should do. This is a black like activity. And it's like, I've always kind of been like on the outside of that. Yeah. And that's why like me now, it's like growing up, like now I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable in my race. I'm comfortable in my identity. I know what my definition of like how I'm black. I don't really care what other people think at this point. That's what you need to be. Like,
I have a nephew who's of mixed parentage also. I call him, caramel. My caramel boy.
He like the colorism here.
My caramel. He's my caramel boy. And he's sweet. To be honest, Daniel is like one of the sweetest boys I know. And my niece also. But You say something which I thought was interesting. Your theatre, dance,
like
chess, and all that kind of stuff. Contemporary, tap. I did all that. Yeah, but in my case, it was back in Zimbabwe. You know what I'm saying? I think the whole sometimes you have to be conscious to break the mold. I think sometimes we allow ourselves to be pigeonholed into spaces where we know we don't fit, and I think more so now we are suddenly finding out that the self-awareness, the ability to define oneself, and I think right now it's one of the most. For me, I think it's one of the most interesting times in our lives, really, because we didn't grow up with that.
No, we didn't. But I think it's still extremely difficult, isn't it? Because I think it's added pressure. And you can see why people then sort of like, they not abandon it, but they find it easier just to go with the flow. But you're not, in a sense, being true to yourself. You don't do certain things. You don't think, you find yourself fitting in with things, which the process of fitting in is actually very difficult. In whatever, so, there's clearly going to be lots of people here at this university who are fitting in. And therefore, there'll be lots of black students, lots of black male students fitting in. But there could be a price which could be paid for that fitting in.
But I don't know. You're definitely right. I think, the refusal to follow one's proclivities, for lack of a better term, the inability to know what it is that you are working with. Because when all is done, our search in life is to find oneself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then for some of us, in retrospect, it's like we are thinking, if only I knew what I know now back then, the choices I would have made would have been different. But that also comes from a point that as a community, we don't really give each other cautionary tales. We don't share stories. You see what I'm saying? If I had known that you were the only guy in that space, the only brother of color in a white space, that probably would have, and you told that story, then maybe many brothers would have flocked to that space just to give support. You don't know.
It could be, or it could be that actually, it's.
I think we like safety. I think we do being comfortable. Like if we know we've got a black space, I think it does take courage to have like a group of people step out into like a predominantly white space. It's like we have it like even with like for example like our American football team. It's like we have a lot of like black people and like people of color coming down to the tryouts, and then we obviously have like a black group within the team, and like we make an environment of like culture, and we appreciate that stuff. But it's like you have plenty that come down and then they see how like white the rest of the team is, and a lot of them are like, I don't know if this is for me. And it's like I understand it, but I also think like we have a whole thing where we do like just being comfortable. Like if we know we've got a space, I'm gonna stay in my lane. Like I feel like a lot of us like tend to do that, and I think that's something we need to work to break out of almost, you know?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because people want to do that because of reasons. Because being out there, if you have experiences which have been negative and have been sort of painful,
I know,
a part of you saying, why would I want to put myself in that position again? You know, and so I can understand and respect that sort of position there. But at the same time as that, I want to be able to, as a person, to respect a person who says, I like this. You know, I like classical music. I like whatever it might be. So we had people who've had Delroy, for instance. Delroy is a psychotherapist there. He was a pastor for 30 odd years, and he was telling us when he was on about how he goes open water swimming. And he's the only black person. So he's my age. So
I'm thinking you're in the wrong place, man.
Black guy there. He's
You're in the wrong place, man.
And he's doing something he wants to do. This is what he wants to do at this moment in his life there. But it does take courage to do that.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I'd like to think is that actually younger people could see older people doing that sort of thing and think actually, you know, it's doable there. And at the same time, older people seeing younger people doing things and thinking that's also something which I can do as well.
But don't you think with this generation, I think things are slightly, because they seem to be more in tune, one with themselves. And I think they are more exposed to a wider sort of kind of friendship group. You know, it's like there's this sense of self that I have never seen. Because even when I say it to my boys, their friends group are just around. Tosin is here. Our extra speaker on today's conversation is just arrived. You know, from work. You know.
Come in there, Dr. Tosin.
Dr. Tosin. Dr. Tosin.
I like to put a bit of expectation there for you.
Bring in a chair.
Dr. Tosin. You know what I mean? But it's like I find this generation interesting in the sense that your generation seemed to be in tune. I mean, that's why you were saying like that sense of belonging, the following the crowd. I wonder if this generation seems to do that as much as we did. Because if you look at it, here in this part of the world, we didn't have many people who looked like us. You know what I'm saying? One thing that I remember a conversation between me and Mark Hutchinson, you know, growing up in Oxford. And he mentioned something around the whole idea of dating within, you know, that kind of space. The fact that, you know, there were not probably females who look like you. You know what I'm saying? So, but this generation seems to be more open to experimenting.
Well, is it experimental, or is it more a case of you've got, a lot more people?
Yeah.
The black community in Britain is much bigger than. I mean, I was born here, 1960. It's much bigger. You've got an African community from many different African countries there, which we didn't have when I was growing up. People from Nigeria, people from Ghana, people from Zimbabwe, people from Cameroon, from Congo, all these different places there you've now got in British cities, which is exciting. Then you've got people from Asia, all the different Asian countries, and Eastern European countries, which, again, growing up, you just did not have it. I come to the university now, and I'm half expecting to hear see all of those people. That's what I expect now, which you didn't get before, which is both exciting for some, but also quite scary for others.
Yeah.
Where it's just too much.
Yeah. Like some people struggle with like how culturally diverse, like especially at places like university now, like you have so many international students, you've got plenty of different like various forms of like Africans, like it's genuinely a global thing now. It's like I feel like we're more comfortable, like maybe our generation more, because we are more exposed to it. But then again, on the other side, I have like a mate, his name's Timo, and it's like he grew up in Gloucester, he then went to Ireland for a bit, and it's like it's only until he really like came back to like Sheffield like for uni and stuff like that, like he actually discovered more. Because like growing up, it's like he said like growing up like until the age of 12, he was pretty much always like the only black family in whatever like village he went to. So it is like really like, look, I'm fortunate. I grew up in Manchester. And that's so diverse. Like it's like I moved to Sheffield and I was taken aback because I was like, okay, if it's not as big here. All of a sudden I needed to adjust a bit. But I always felt so blessed in Manchester because like even my sister lived in Switzerland for a bit, and I remember like going over to Switzerland on the trams, I was like, yo, why are people staring at me? Like, all of a sudden I'm like, okay.
Or maybe they were staring and saying, what a boy.
What a handsome young man.
Hopefully.
Yeah, what a handsome young man.
Hopefully. But like doing those trips always made me like appreciate coming back to Manchester so much, because it's like, that shows like, look, like I think some place in the UK we're so fortunate to be so diverse.
No, that's true.
Does that mean therefore that actually, in a sense, it can be restrictive as well? That actually, there you are in the urban setting, and all the things which you described you can get. But let's say, for instance, an opportunity arose to go to some small market town where you can have a very nice life there, this, that, and the other. Would that be something which you'd say to yourself, actually, I don't think that's for me because I'm going to lose too much?
Like me personally, I don't think that would stop me, because I'm like in the mindset where it's like, I'm not gonna let you stop me. Like you try and make me feel uncomfortable. Like I'm like, I'm gonna go wherever I want to go. My skin color ain't a factor for me, and if it's a factor for you, that's a problem for you. You know what I mean? I understand the sense of like, I might feel more uncomfortable. I might wish that I had more of a community, but that by letting that affect me, that's almost like letting them win. Like keep me in like my lane, keep me in places.
Well, that's you have to have quite a lot of strength, sense of self there, because we work with an organisation which is around mental health there, and when we asked the question to David Busu, who is our CEO, and we asked the question to him, which is, why do we still have SACMA 40 years on? And he says, well, 40 years ago, black men in this country were 6 times more likely to be detained under the Mental Health Act. Today it's 5 times. So I can and some of those people will be people who have gone through institutions like this, people who have been very academic at school, they've been sort of expected of themselves to do really well, they've been fitting in and adapting and all of the bits etc like that there, and sometimes that pressure's too much. It'll take a burden on you, I can imagine. Like, it would be tough.
So if I was to ask, how are you guys doing? How are you coping with the life in a diverse campus?
You can take it.
Diverse campus. So, can't lie, I usually just sort of try embrace the diversity So like with me, I think I mentioned before, like our sort of team, we sort of somehow, some way, didn't even force it. Like all the black guys just sort of came together. Like we just sort of found, it just came about. Like
you found
the
it.
same stuff. We all just went to the same stuff, and we just sort of like all clicked from there. And it's just like kickstarted something really beautiful within our team, where we all sort of connected. But even beyond that, like I like embracing sort of the diversity within the city as well. Because even my flatmates, all of them are internationals. All of them come from different countries. 2 of them from Egypt, 1 of them from India. And it's really nice to see like the sort of perspective they bring and the sort of things that they embrace as well. So like my Indian flatmate, he's always telling me all the stuff that he misses from India, and I always get to learn more stuff. Like I think like he's always telling me about like the cooking stuff, so like masala stuff. Like I think I didn't even really know what masala was, but he's told me like it's just like a blend of spices.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, like learning. I think learning about different cultures is really like it's good to like open your perspective, and it really makes you think about like it not only makes you appreciate other people's cultures, but also makes you think more about your own culture. Like what do I have? What am I appreciative of? Since coming uni, I've really appreciated like my flatmate appreciates his family's cooking, his culture's cooking. I've appreciated my own family's cooking more now as well.
So what do you miss then? What's the food you miss?
Meat pies, bro. Back home, I could probably walk for 5 minutes, find one easily. Like first year, it started to change now. First year here, I'd probably have to maybe go down to Wicker to get a meat pie. But now I think they've got a whole a Nigerian food store in the mall now. It's like a 5-minute walk from me now. Over the past few years, like I think you've seen like a lot of diversity, like black culture coming out more now. Like in the more, I think I always found it easy to find like stuff that I'd need to like
products, jewelries, like
like if I need to cook something, I can find the ingredients, but if I want something already made,
yes.
But now you've got like the restaurant or the food store I mentioned in the mall, but you've also got in the Cambridge Collective, the new one.
I heard about
the restaurant there as well, and they serve meat pies as well.
It's a man who loves his meat pies.
Some Nigerian stuff on my
my days.
The next time I say, I need a wife.
My wife's gonna need to learn to cook that stuff.
But just on that then, I mean, because still on that, I mean, because here you are there, I mean, you're doing medicine, you're doing philosophy there, and do you, in that sense of trying to manage being here, do you feel that what you've just said about you made a connection with people here who are like you, doing exactly the same thing? How does that sort of relate with when you go back home with people who, effectively, they're there? You know, they're back in East London, they're back in Wythenshawe, which socioeconomically, they're very different types of communities to the sort of community which you're rubbing shoulders with. You're rubbing shoulders there with Indians from India, Egyptians from, this is, it's got a slight, not going to elite, but it's, they're reasonably academic, aren't they? And they're reasonably likely to end up as in positions.
I'd always say it's like, I know some people don't view it as the most healthiest thing, but I think a lot of us do it. It's code switching. It's like,
it's been given a bad press recently.
Like it's its own topic, and sure, like a lot of people do it too much. To
Good
old
code switching.
It's its own like topic where some people do it enough to a point where they have identity issues. I mean, you always struggle to be like, who actually is the real me? But it's like, I do think like, it's a basic necessity in life. Like you have to you have to learn to do it, because otherwise you just like, it's easier to fit in at times. Like we have like a human desire to be comfortable, I'd say, to fit in, be safe. Like we're sociable creatures at the end of the day, and to get that social fix, we need to be liked almost, and need to not try and stand out too much. Like so that's why I'd say like whenever I go back home, it's like I always say it's like, my uni mates see a different version of me to my mates at home. My mates at home see a different version of me to my mum. Like, you have different... Everyone knows a different version of you. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's why I just say it's like, you got to manage those yourself, and you can't let it get too out of hand to a point where you struggle to know who you are yourself. But you always need to kind of switch up to fit an environment. It's just basic safety kind of idea.
Let me ask a question then. Are you? I mean, like I know you are speaking as a philosopher, a budding philosopher, so to speak. Don't you think then that as humankind we are it's just a natural progression to change. Because I think sometimes trying to maintain that elusive initial spark, sometimes for me, I just think it's sometimes it kills the potential to explore what you will become. I remember there's a book, Becoming was Michelle's first book. And I remember listening to her podcast, and she was talking about her journey to where she was at that moment. In your journey then, are you trying to say that you are still the little boy growing up in Manchester, or now you have changed into this handsome, bigger American football playing young man who is an intellectual at the same time?
I'd always say it's like, I think you're always looking for development.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to develop different parts of your personality. And I also think it's like, naturally you're all going to mature. Like, regardless if you're going to mature from being like young to being older, I also think like you're always going to try and develop like the different parts of your personality, but I don't think everyone needs to see those developments. It's like, as long as me, myself, it's like, look, I'd say a lot of people might not necessarily know who I am. It's like a lot of people might not know that like I can talk for where I talk, or like would want to be in a podcast talking about like serious societal issues. Like some people just know me as like a class clown from high school making jokes at the back of the class. And like that's what I mean. Like, you know what I mean? It's like on the American football team, like they do not hear me talk like this as much. And it's because it's like,
because that's a setting, isn't it? As well.
It's about
and you said before about code switching, and I think then you agreed there, Lungani, that it's a necessity. We all do it. You know, you do it when you're in a leisure setting, don't you? You do it when you're in a work setting. You do it. You can use whatever language you want to use, but we are changing how we present ourselves in different settings. So when you guys are playing your American football there, it is a group of young men enjoying themselves who are bonding over this sort of sporting experience.
It's completely different. It's like,
but then I'm still, is it possible then to be, because I struggle with the idea, like people used to say, oh yeah, I wear a hat for different kind of occasions and stuff. I don't. The guy you see here is the same guy you see down at the gym.
I say you're strong. You're stronger than me, man. Like you are.
Because for me, I think because of I'm neurodivergent. ADHD. You see what I'm saying? So I have never really had.
I felt like you're like.
I don't, because my mind is that diverse enough to be able to just be what it is. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying there, and I think we're all agreeing to a degree, in the sense, which is that we do it to a degree. If you have to do it too much, it's too pressurized. And the problem for some situations is that sometimes you can find yourself being forced into it. And so my professional experience, when I became a vice principal, that I could find myself in a room where out of 200 people, it'd be me one. Me one as a person, a black person. And I didn't make it get me down, but what did happen is that actually there was a self which had to be presented, which I did present, which is a professional self. But then you'd be equating a professional self with white middle class, which I'm not. So therefore, there was always something I couldn't share. Because they couldn't understand. So actually, I compare that with having to be working at SACMA, which is mainly all black. That I think I still present me, but it's in some respects, it's a more comfortable me than the me I was before. It might be different if I was saying a more sort of like leadership position, because then you have to take, you have to basically accept, you have to make decisions which people might not like. I don't have that sort of situation as such there. So I think it is an important one to consider, especially for you as young men who are likely to be going out to try and get a career and succeed in that career, maybe end up in leadership roles there. And it doesn't matter who you're leading. People are going to not like you at some point. But can I just go back to one thing, which is about that bond as a group of young people of colour who were at the university there, and you were really quite sort of like, I sense the warmth you got from that. What do you get from that, which is, in a sense, helps you here being a student at the university?
Sort of like you get immediate people, like people within you can immediately contact, like if you need something, or if you need to talk to them, if you want to hang out or anything like that.
Yeah.
So like when I had the podcast again, when I was trying to get people, recruit people for the podcast, if I like, obviously we just needed some people from the team. Boom, I just went to that group chat, asked Cameron, asked other people if they were available. Yeah. And if I want to hang out, say we want to go out, I'm like, okay, I want to go here. You guys want to come? They told me yes, no, maybe so. If you want to play basketball, yes, no, maybe so.
Like any team socials, immediately we're kind of like,
are you going?
Yeah, we're checking in with each other. You know what I mean? Like for me, like the American football team and the experience would not be the same without that group. Like because it's more just even being comfortable. Like, you know, the whole like code switching thing. It's like, for example, like when you code switch, you just show different sides of yourself. I wouldn't say you're completely switching yourself. You just show different sides of yourself. And like you said, with being like, you feel like you're demonstrating a side which is a little bit more comfortable, easier to do. I'd say that's all of us together. We don't have to feel like we're putting on like more of an act or like a bit more like of a more uncomfortable side to demonstrate.
And there's some things you don't have to explain.
Yeah, you don't have to.
You don't have to explain. You know, that just is.
It's just basic like shared experience.
Yes.
Because one of the things, I mean, we were talking about the whole idea of going to the barbers. You go to the barbers, you have a cut. When you come out, you step in differently, you know, because you're looking shit. You're looking at
every reflection you're in. Like.
So in essence, then, it's in us to be able to, because really, even like those who say they know the human psyche and stuff are still finding out that we are layers. We all have layers, and I think I think for me, I struggle with the concept of, because some people will say code switching is what our parents did when on the phone, when somebody rang, suddenly they were speaking in their best English voice. When they just cast you in. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So it's that idea that at work they were one person, at home different. When they were meeting the teacher, they were different. Because for me, I think why sometimes we struggle with mental health as a community is because that we had to be so many things to a variety of people. We couldn't afford to be just me.
Yeah. And the me sometimes can be a me, first of all, recognising that each individual is such a complex
that's
being.
Absolutely.
And in a sense, to be just simply reduced to, you know, black, whatever that might mean to someone or to some people there, I think is really quite, you know, it's not only painful, it's destructive because it doesn't allow the complexity of self to be explored, the complexity of self to be sort of like, you know, that self-discovery, you know, which is needed, you know, in life there to try and make some sense of this is who I actually am. And I think for a lot of us, we've had that as I think it's been a difficulty for many people there.
But don't you think then? I'm actually to your point. I mean, all of you growing up and being raised in this country, hasn't there been an expectation to be this kind of black?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've probably experienced that most with like, cause my father wasn't the most like present in my life at all times or whatever. So it's like growing up, like I raised by pretty much a white mother, going to an all-white primary school. I genuinely had no perception of race. I get to secondary school, all of a sudden, you're too white, you're too black for white kids, too white for the black kids, all of a sudden. It was like, I had a massive colorism thing. I'm comfortable now, and I've gone on my own journey to like resonate with that, and now that's why I think I don't mind the code switching, because I think going through all that made me be quite a private person. Like I'm very content with my own thoughts, being an individual, being myself. I don't need the sense of community. I appreciate it and I love it. That's why I love what I have in the Sabres with like our group, and I love going to like different events, and I do enjoy that comfortability. but I don't need it because growing up, I didn't necessarily have that. That's why, like, my code switching is like, it doesn't have as much of a burden on me because I feel like
you've had to do it.
That's always been what I do. It's like, I like growing as a person, but I grow by myself. I don't necessarily need to share that with you or you or you. I'm quite private in that manner, so it doesn't affect me.
But for Tosin, for you, you're different, then, aren't you? Because you come from a very, very clearly identifiable sort of, this is my community.
I can't even, like, even with that sort of like clear, I'm a Nigerian person or a Nigerian guy, it's even had its like rocky bits here and there. So in primary school, I think I've told you guys before, I went to like predominantly black primary school. I think I was in a class of 30 with maybe more than 20 black kids, like majority black school. I went from that to a majority white secondary school, and that sort of change wasn't completely easy. So like, if I'm saying certain things, they won't really get what I'm saying, or if like I act a certain way, they won't really get how I'm acting, and it was sort of like I had to sort of change the way I acted, the way I talked to sort of fit them. And then when I would sort of go and hang out with other black people, say in my church, they'll be like, oh yeah, you're whitewashed, you're bounty. Yes. So that had me thinking, damn, am I not like black enough anymore? Am I not like still sort of relating to my culture? It's something I still sort of feel nowadays as well, because like I think I've said it before, like, or just in general, like whenever like I went to my cousin's wedding during June time, and even there I felt like I felt like a certain part of me had been lost, because I'm like, I remember this culture, but why don't I like sort of practice it? Or I remember we do this sort of thing, but why don't I do that anymore? And it's still something I'm sort of figuring out, but I think growing to like sort of appreciate the fact that I'm quote unquote like a bounty or whatever you want to call it, but I'm still a black man, sort of came in my sixth form, where it was sort of more, it was still predominantly white, but there were more sort of black people, more sort of diversity there. And I sort of found a group of friends that like shared similar interests in me, shared sort of similar ideas and views to me, and I was sort of able, and I think people would probably even call them bounties, whitewashed, all of that. And I was sort of able to find that and become more comfortable in like the fact that I may not act a certain type of black, but I'm still a black man at heart, even if you want to call me a bounty or anything like that.
That's part of the issue, is like acting black. Like what
that's the thing.
What is that?
No, it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense.
Like, we all go through so many struggles regardless, because to like non-black people, we're the same. Like, we are like, we
you
are
walk
like,
down the street,
they don't care. Like, yeah, black. It's like,
they're not working out, what kind of black is that?
Like, if it's like, if there's a black male, like, that's all we're defined as.
They don't care, like, if you're talking Queen's English or if you're speaking.
Yeah, but we get like such a thing where it's like, you're not black enough, you're a bounty, you're whitewashed, and it's like, we all go through the same struggles. That's why you just gotta disregard that. Like, you have to be like, who are you to decide what my blackness is and how black I am? Like, that's why, like, it's tough, and you gotta be like mentally strong to do it. But that's why, like, you almost gotta stop giving other people validation to decide what kind of black you are. Like, I know I'm black, I'm proud I'm black. I'll always be black. Like, nothing can take that away from me, whether you think it or not. You gotta be mentally strong enough to just be comfortable in your race. That's what it is.
But that's the thing. Speaking to your point, we this is a thing we do to each other. It's not something that is done to us. What is done to us has already been done to us, and it is a system by itself. But then we perpetuate that system by actually speaking.
Yeah, and it could be something which is done because it's defensive, isn't it? You know, hurt people.
No, that's true.
So, you know, I said it from last week, and actually that's a quote from Delroy Hall's book. And, you know, I think it's so profound, that thing, that's what seems to happen then. And it could also that people are doing that in a sort of, like I said, defensive, because when you've got something which is not, I'd say, as a community, and a culture which is not validated, which is undermined, which is sort of like given scorn, well, actually, you have to be protective about it.
I think some of it comes from a defense mechanism. I'd say it's like, if you're like so proud of this culture and community, and then you almost see like any of these other like cultures, communities that you don't particularly like as much, and you're not as involved in, like, as soon as like you see like another like black person like not completely be 100% like this. We're almost like, why are you trying to leave? Why are you trying to be betrayed? Like, they feel like as if they don't want anything else or don't need to explore any other communities, really.
So, where is home for you?
I don't even know now. Like, I can't lie. Deep it, bro. Oh yeah. Like, well, I say my home was like I always lived like in Manchester. There was like one house, and I was raised there like my entire life. Then I moved to Sheffield 3 years ago. I've been here since. I barely go back now because like my mum sold the house, so now it's a different house. So like. Where I would have called my home, there's some random family living in there now. So it's like, for me now, I kind of feel like I don't necessarily have one place I would directly call home. I appreciate Manchester. I love it. It'll always be like really special to me now, because I don't have that family home to go back to anymore. It's almost like, I don't even know. I'd say like, I don't directly have a home at this point, you know? But that's something for me to figure later.
I'm a bit like torn because I think it's similar for me, but like once I came uni, I think a few years in, my family moved homes. Yeah. So like the home that I always go back to now isn't like the home that I grew up in.
It's not your childhood home, man.
Yeah, it's not my childhood home. But at the end of the day, it's still my family there. I still feel the same sort of comfort and warmth there. Like, I think I've noticed it, like whenever I go home, again with food, like I get 10 times more hungry.
You're going to get that big plate of food.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
And I just feel like generally more relaxed. But at uni, I feel it's weird because like sort of the way I'll behave, the way I'll sort of dress as well, like, I feel less pressured at uni as well. Like
more free.
Yeah, like I'll be like at uni, I'll just be like, okay, that's fine. Let me put that on. But at home, I'm like, ooh, does this work? Does this match? Because I feel like I need to sort of fit like a certain way.
Yeah, you've got absolutely. But you know, with that home bit. If you expand that notion of home, which is about identity nearly, which is, you know, you're of Nigerian background, your dad's Sierra Leone, your mother's white British. I mean, I was born in Britain of Jamaican background, and it's something I've wrestled with all my life. And I'm not particularly Jamaican, but I'm very, very, very sort of like... connected to it, you know, because when you go to Jamaica, you get told you're not Jamaican, so you can forget that lot. You can go back as many times as you like. You're not Jamaican as such, but I'm not British. So you end up with this sort of like, although born and raised there for over 60 odd years, I don't feel like there's a heart place, a place where my heart is as such. And if I have to then I have to do something which I've done in this year, and I've said to Lungani, I have to say to myself in the end, I know I'm going to die here, my children are here, my grandchildren are here, this is my home. And it's only been in this 6 months, the last 6 months, that I've actually come to say that to myself and say it out loud. This is my home, and I'm 64.
You know why I asked the question? I had a conversation with one of my nieces. I have many, and she said to me, I said she was born in Zimbabwe, but she travels all over the place, and I like, so when I asked her, you know, where she had been, she said, oh yeah, I just came from Italy not too long ago. I just booked a flight I saw a flight the previous day and booked it and then travel.
Spontaneous.
You know what I'm saying? That kind of person. And then when I asked her about that concept of home, because her parents go back home, they go probably in Zim and all that kind of stuff. Her sister's in Australia and we have family in South Africa and stuff. She said, I carry home with me. She has a house here. But she says she carries home. And for me, it has always been a concept that I have always toyed with for many years, simply because of that very thing you're speaking about, that sense of where do you belong? You know what I'm saying? That sense of where do you belong? And the carrying of home with me kind of makes more sense, because it means then I can come to your house and feel at home. You see what I'm saying? Wherever I am, I feel at home. You know what I'm saying? And I'm more so, you guys as students, why I'm asking that question is because that basically will determine where you go after this, whether you decide to stay in Sheffield or you go to Timbuktu. Or you go you go to Sierra Leone.
I think there's a sort of slightly underhand bit here with us with this podcast. We want to keep as many of you students, you know, here in Sheffield, adding to the sort of like the richness of the black community, the black communities in Sheffield as well.
Progressive black community.
Absolutely there. And, you know, I think it's so exciting to, well, first of all, I have to say, it is so exciting to talk to, you know, young people, people who are doing what you're doing, basically there, because, you know, it fills you with pride.
No, it does.
It does. A real sense of pride.
Yeah.
I mean, I was being waxing lyrical about Loretta for you. Bigging you up.
There's a question. There's a question we asked a group when we went to Fades. You know, the first time we started recording this podcast, we say to a bunch of men, like, "When is the last time you cried?"
Mine's more recent. Mine actually is more recent. Like, I'd say, I speak to some of my mates, and some of my mates are like, "Oh, I've not cried in like 2 years." Like, I'm definitely not like that. I'd say I probably cry at least once a month, once every 2 months. Like, I'd say like I'm fairly in touch with my emotions. Like, I'm not someone that like, I think there's a difference, and I think you've got to lay it out in a controlled manner. Like, for me, it's like there's certain people where it's like, oh, they'll just be out and they're crying in public, and for me that's a no-go. Like, I'm never gonna show that in public. But for me, if I'm like really down or something really bad happens that affects me, I will just like sit in my room, I might be watching something, and it just comes out slightly, and I reflect, I think about it, and then I'm like, okay, I channel it. I maybe like, I do this thing where like I'm a bit mad. I like talking like philosophy, so I will just like waffle onto myself. I'll almost like debate myself and be like, why am I feeling like this? And after having that in a controlled manner, then I feel a lot better. But I think there is a stigma around crying. Like, when people hear that I cry like once a month or once every 2 months, they look at me in a certain way and be like, oh, are you okay? Are you okay? And it's like, just because you cry doesn't mean there's like something wrong and you need help. I think crying is a perfectly healthy thing to do, you know?
Yeah, they often don't, because I was listening to this morning, which was about anger. And if you repress that emotion, it's bad for you. And crying is a way of, I'd imagine, a way of sort of like externalizing a feeling. And if you don't externalize key emotions, then actually you do damage to the body, in terms of the psychological self there. What about yourself, Tosin?
You break.
I think for me, like, I don't cry too often. I get like teary-eyed, like I know I'm about to cry, but then I sort of hold it back. Because with me, like, when I was growing up, I was not the same person you see today. I was quite the emotional, sort of aggressive sort of child. So you, like, one little thing, I'll probably be throwing a tantrum, probably be crying, all that sort of stuff. So growing up like that, it's sort of like, and seeing like how it's affected others when I do that sort of stuff, it sort of made me think, right, I can't keep acting like this, otherwise it's going to cause problems, not only for me but for other people. It'll ruin friendships, it'll ruin relationships, all that sort of stuff. So for me, sort of, whenever I have those sorts of moments where I feel like I'm about to cry, I sort of like try hold myself back and bottle it up. I think the last time I had like a proper, I think this one, like even with all the bottling angles, I would say this one more justified. Like when my grandma passed, that was like 4 years ago. I think because I think that was the first member of my family that ever passed.
She passed in Britain?
She passed in Nigeria.
Okay.
So like that was sort of, so like you had my mum sort of breaking down in tears because her mum's just passed, and then me and my brother trying to comfort her. Then we sort of like left the room, and I just started tearing up because like that was, because my grandma was like the only grandparent I had a relationship with properly. So it was sort of like, and her being like one of the first people in my life to die was sort of like quite emotional for me. So I think that was probably the last time I had like a full-blown proper like cry. I think ever since then it's been more sort of teary-eyed, sort of holding back those emotions, because I feel like it's not a justifiable time to sort of lose my cool.
I like it. Not a justifiable time.
Very distinguished. I like it.
Absolutely.
To lose my cool.
That's what it is, like.
He doesn't want to lose his cool. Hey, I lose my cool all the time. Tell you, what about you, Don?
Last time I cried, trying to think. Last time I cried, I was brought up really not to cry, so it's not something which I would say I do a lot of. I get more teary-eyed now, and I can get teary-eyed now, like you said, Tosin, when I'm watching programs, and
like what, a chick flick?
I can be watching. I actually watched Schindler's List recently, and I got and it wasn't teary. It was teary-eyed and anger, and the sense of, and actually the feeling I got from watching Schindler's List was the sense of, there's a bit in it where the commandant says about the Polish Jews have been in Poland for 600 years, and they've been this, that, and etc., but there've been no more. And I thought, well, that could easily be us. We could be here for 600 years, and for some, you could be here for 1,000 years, but you'll never be of us. And that got me really it was anger and tearful for that sense of that being an essence as such. In terms of personal crying, well, I cried when my brother died. And I cried after my brother died because I didn't cry at the funeral. I did the eulogy, etc. I cried because I was angry that I couldn't cry. That's what really, I was up here, I thought I was going to explode. And I went to the walk-in centre down in town, and I said, look, I really don't feel good, I feel really bad, I feel sort of like anxious, I was all twitching all over the place there, and took my blood pressure, it was all over, and I said to the doctor, he said, you should see the doctor. I went to the doctor and I told him what. He said, do you want to see someone, we've got someone who's a grief counsellor upstairs, do you want to see the grief counsellor? And I thought, part of me was going to say, no, I don't want to see a grief counsellor, I've said enough. And I said, no, I'll see her. So I go upstairs and I tell her what I've just told you now. And that's when I started to cry. And it was as if I allowed myself permission to cry. And that's why I think it's I think it's a good thing to cry, like it's a good thing to show anger as well. So that was the last proper time I cried.
No, because I'm to
You'll
be honest.
cry, aren't you?
Oh,
you have to walk around with a box of tissue.
What? No, but this is the thing. I grew up in the same kind of environment as every one of you, where you feel like you have to be stoic. You have to hold things back in. And I think one thing I'm finding out as I grow older and older is the fact that whatever you hold in is going to break you eventually. You know what I'm saying? Because, like I'm saying, emotion is a natural process. Process. The same way we laugh about. I laugh about everything, and I joke around. You know what I mean? And so my home, my children, it's always laughter, and I always go out of my way to clown around, like you were saying, to clown around. But we always find that us who are always making others feel at ease are the ones who seem to be more broken than everyone else, because there's no one to show us, to be there for us. There's no one to make. That's what I'm saying.
There's a comfort needed. And to show vulnerability, which is very, very, very scary to do.
Yes, and I think especially for you guys, if I was at university at your guys' age, and because one of the things we are trying to kind of work on is this thing of making sure that our young people are more in tune and they are more equipped with the tools to navigate a space that is not necessarily for them. Because your guys, we were never meant to be in this part of the world. You know what I'm saying? So in essence, for me, sometimes I'm more conscious that, if we don't have this space with your generation to just share, like what our process is or what we've discovered, we'll suddenly find that your guys you'll do exactly the same thing we have done. And then one day you'll be talking with your grandchildren saying, I can't remember last time I cried. You know what I'm saying? It's been a hard thing.
I didn't cry since the day I was born.
Yeah. Okay, so to end off. So, what is your thing?
Like, what do you mean?
What is your thing? You know, like, what is that thing? I write. Let me tell you, I journal everything, and I have a big TikTok thing that I do, and where I express my thoughts, and that's my thing.
Yeah.
You know, like that, and a good conversation.
Yeah.
With somebody, for me, is a thing.
I'm a walker. I like walking. Yeah. That's my thing. That's the thing which basically gets me to. I went walking with my walking group 2 Saturdays ago. It was a beautifully sunny day, and we get to a certain point of the walk where there's 7 of us, and there's a bench which is free, which is where we're going to have our lunch, and we sit down and we take our sandwiches out and we start sharing amongst one another. That was like a piece of heaven. Just that sense of breaking bread with one another in this glorious setting with the blue sky, you've got the hills behind you. That's my thing.
What about you? Why do you want me to go first? You need time to think. I'd definitely say, like, in a way where, like, I study philosophy. I like to think. Like, I do like to think. I like a conversation. Like, I think in current society, like I was saying to you earlier, I don't think there's enough pure conversation. I think a lot of it is like, I'm a shout at you, you're a shout at me, we're not just going to listen to each other, nothing's achieved. Like, I enjoy just having a good chat, really. And also, like, for me, like, when it comes to thinking, like, I've got a passion for, like, thinking about problems that, like, don't have an answer. Like, I know, like, I just like resignated. It's like, for example, like, do I have like 5 minutes to go on like a tangent, like give an example?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. The floor is yours.
So I'll give you a bit of like, it's called the trolley problem, right? And I did it in one of my seminars, right? Let's say you're on a bridge. There's like a trolley car. It's going out of control. It's on a rail. There's 5 people. These 5 people are going to get hit by the trolley and die. You're on a bridge with quite a large person. They might be like really fat, they might be really muscular, but like you have the power. You could push them onto the track, stop the trolley. Do you do it? Like, is it okay to do it? Like, what do you think? Like,
it's a hard one because if the trolley going towards these other people,
it's going to go towards them and hit them regardless.
And they might.
they're going to die.
They're going to die.
They're going to die.
But do you have the right to push somebody?
I don't know. But would you do it?
Would I do it? I think I might do it.
You think you might do it? What about you? Do you have
my brain at this moment is just literally it's like I'm gonna muse over this, you know, like till I get home. And by then probably I'll come up to a resolve, you know, of some sort, because this I think it's one of those ways that like there's no right or
This is a point. And there's 2 other examples of this as well. So the concept is like Another scenario. You're in a little like village. There's no police in this village. Like you can commit whatever crime, you're never gonna get caught. You're in a hospital. You've got 5 patients. One needs a heart transplant. One needs lung. One needs liver. One needs like brain and like you know what I mean. Like they all need different organs.
Yeah.
It happens to be a healthy person walks in. Is it okay to shoot that healthy person and give the organs to the 5 people? Why not?
That's not because of the sanctity of life.
Oh, but you were willing to push the person onto the bridge.
Well, no, I said I was maybe, and actually the push the person bit, as you say that now, means that actually the maybe bit actually stops me from doing it. The notion of sanctity of life means that actually I would look for an alternative. I might not find the alternative, but I would probably. I can see that actually, if I don't do something, there's a probability they're all going to die.
Yeah.
And you know, going back to that Schindler's List, where you see in there people having to make those life and death decisions to survive, and we know that many of the survivors of that they had survivor's guilt because they probably did have to make some decisions like that.
Right. And then here's a final one where a lot of time it changes, right? Yeah. Russia and the US are at a war, right? Russia launches a missile. It's about to hit Chicago. You have the power. You can't destroy it. But as like a government in control, you can manage to misdirect that missile. If it hits Chicago, it will kill 5 million people. You can direct it to Western Illinois, and it only kills 1. Do you direct the missile Because most people direct it. But in that exact scenario, it's still a 5-to-1 ratio at life.
Let me tell you, I was listening to a podcast recently. Ta-Nehisi Coates is being interviewed by Trevor Noah and Christina, like on the What Now podcast. And Trevor Noah is talking about a conversation he was having with Obama around the idea of collateral damage. And he says, you remember talking and saying, like sometimes say, oh yeah, we got this. We got this, what a terrorist, his taxi was whatever, we bombed this taxi. He says, I then asked, what about the taxi driver? What happens to him? What happened to him? He said, yeah, we killed him. But then one thing that happens, especially in what we have seen in this world, is the fact that decisions have been made. And those people who died as part of collateral damage, their families
still affected.
Are affected because sometimes even the taxi driver has so many other people who rely on him, and that's why you're suddenly finding that in certain parts of the world wars don't end, because the people sometimes don't need some crazy person to radicalize them. All they need is a spark to turn them into the thing. Because if you're going to kill the person, if you're going to end the life of the person who basically has been sustaining my life, I may get off the rail. You see what I'm saying? So the point I'm trying to make is that in this instance, it's like there's a sanctity of life. And I don't think as humankind we have every right to even lend our hand in snuffing out somebody else's life. And I think I'm a believer in that whole thing, live and let live. You know what I'm saying? And I will never really make a decision where I know that's why sometimes I struggle with those concepts, because I'm thinking it's not in myself. I don't really want to prepare myself.
I don't want to be in that position.
I don't want to be in that position.
So, if you were to be in politics, you have to be able to. The political and that moral philosophy there, you have to do a rationalization.
No, you do.
That actually, they would go with the greater good in what they consider to be the greater good in terms of what they know now. But go with what you said there, that notion of multi-generational sort of like impact.
Yes.
You have killed that taxi driver. And even if that taxi driver had nobody, is it still right?
Someone.
That's what I mean.
There's somebody.
Let me tell you,
there's always somebody.
Everyone. Let me tell you. Sometimes the people we have. I was thinking about this concept. I think this morning or yesterday. You don't know, anything that happens to you has far wider implications than just you. Like sometimes we talk about, like suicide amongst us. Like black men, the suicide rate is pretty high.
It's horrific at the moment.
But one thing we don't think about is like, in my taking my life, there is so much fallout that we will never ever imagine. Children, parents, relatives, friends. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes the knock-on effect is so huge, because at that moment maybe things were so difficult that you thought, you know what, it will end with me. It never does. You see what I'm saying? It's the same. It's like that's what I'm saying, like the impact that you guys will have in this institution will be wider reverberations, because it is not just about you. When you guys come to this prestigious university, it's no longer in the top 100, but
but they're going to push it back. You two are pushing it. You're pushing it back into the top 100.
So actually, we haven't forgotten about you, Tosin. What's your thing, bro?
My thing. It might sound okay. I think it might be one of two things, because for one thing, there's my team, where it's sort of like, because back home, like before coming uni, I did not go out that often. Like just in general, whether it be to watch movies, just to like go eat meals, that sort of stuff. But upon coming uni, my sort of social circle sort of became encapsulated by my team. And the sort of stuff that I'd want to do, where going out often, sort of I'd find myself doing that often with my teammates. So sort of like that, they've sort of formed a big part of my the sort of thing that I've been longing for, like that sort of social connection. And I think that's probably one big thing, because like even like my flatmates, whenever I'm telling them, oh yeah, I need to go meet my team, do this, go meet my team, do that, they're like, oh, it's always your team, which annoys them a little. I do love and appreciate them as well. But sort of like the team was sort of like something that it blossomed from a hobby that I sort of found and developed and took an interest in, and into something that's like become an integral part of my life.
Uni wouldn't be the same without it.
Yeah,
like,
without
we
Sabres,
can both agree.
Like without Sabres, we have a much different uni experience.
I'll tell you, they are acting in their name, aren't they? The saviours.
Savers. Savers.
Oh, not saviours.
To be fair, we got it crossed together. Like
I mean, for me, I really wish you all the best, in your, because this is your 3rd year, right?
Oh, 4th year.
4th year.
Yeah, I got this year, then another year.
Then another year, but you.
I'm 2nd at the moment.
2nd.
Yeah.
So we still have you around.
Yeah, I'm still here.
So I think next time, I mean, we will be sitting down for more of a philosophical,
I'm
kind of conversation. I mean, I would love to kind of go on some rapid hole.
I love going down a tangent.
I love that.
Yeah, bro.
I'll talk his ear off half the time.
He talks a lot.
No. I enjoy that. There's nothing like a good, I mean, since we've been working together. I mean, we have had some deep conversations. Literally
he
nothing.
just do rabbit hole.
Hey guys, I for me, my mind is this.
Whatever.
It's different. It is whatever. So thank you very much again for.
Thank you very much.
We really appreciate
it. Love this.
You were talking about that. You guys have a podcast?
Oh no, we don't. I think now one of our teammates was on a podcast before, but
first podcast.
Brilliant stuff. Well, we'll share it with you. You share it with your teammates,
love to see
and it'd be great to actually, we could come down and do something with the team there, as a roving audio. He's got the technical ability, and that'd be really nice to get a sort of audio one there where you're in your setting,
in your setting,
and see that team of people you are there, and just get that feel for there,
because I think also it could help, especially like the other students, because there's a lot of students who come from other parts of the world, and the fear of not knowing if I get there, will I be accepted? Because I think it's one of
that was something we actually realized. You remember when we were at the concourse trying to recruit people?
Yeah.
I think someone came up to us and they were like, because we didn't realize it was such a big thing, but they were like, I was going through the Instagram and I didn't see a single black person. That's why they sort of didn't want to join
we had
the team.
a bit of thing with recruitment this year where we were saying we had postcard, some of recruitment cards and stuff like that. There was no black people on it at all. And we're like, considering we do make a presence in the team, a lot of starters on the team are black.
So maybe you need to get some position of responsibility. Because if you're not in responsibility, then you can't make those decisions.
It's just pure naivety from our part.
Yeah, because it's one of those things you don't realise you should really be thinking about until it becomes.
It happens.
It's just representation.
Because people reflect themselves.
They
don't even think about it, etc. So you need to actually be in a position where actually you can influence and inform and all the other bits there. Before we go, I must say to you that.
Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and never miss an episode. Until next time, keep those conversations going and the Clippers buzzing.